So the first time the word sin shows up in the Bible is in Genesis chapter 4 and verse 7. There are two brothers, Cain and Abel, and Cain was angry because his offering to God wasn't accepted, whereas his brother Abel's offering was accepted. And while Cain was angry, God warned Cain and said something very interesting to him. He said, "You'll be accepted if you do what is right, but if you refuse to do what's right, then watch out, because sin is crouching at the door, eager to control you, but you must subdue it and be its master." So the first thing we read about sin in the Bible is that it's crouching at the door, and its desire is to rule and control. What does that mean, that sin's crouching at the door and wants to rule over you? Well, what this means is that sin is always lurking around, like a predator waiting on its prey, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Yet it doesn't just stop at the strike. You see, after sin strikes, it wants to go deeper and it wants to devour you. What sin wants to do is sin wants to control your thoughts, your emotions. It wants to taint your judgments. It wants to be the focal point of your life and sit on the throne of your heart. And that's a very dangerous thing, because sin has no boundaries. You can choose what you want to do, but you can't choose the consequences that come with it. And the danger here is that you never know the depths that sin will take you. It'll take you away from God, out of His good pleasure. It'll defile you. It'll ruin your mental health, your emotional health. It'll degrade your mental and emotional stability. It'll kill valuable relationships, and it'll even kill you. You see, what the Bible tells us is that the wages of sin is death. So when you allow sin to rule over you, your reward is death. And the most dangerous part of living a life under the power of sin is that the consequences extend far beyond your years on earth. One way is that your wrongdoings will affect those around you, your friends, your family, your partner. If you're a parent, it'll affect your children. But you will still suffer the consequences of your sin after your time on earth, because you'll relocate to an eternal state of death and torment, or hell. But when you look back at what God said to Cain, He said, "You must subdue it and be its master." So although sin's desire is to rule over us, God's desire is for us to rule over sin and to not let it have this great power over us. Now this is tough though, because how can we rule over sin when sin is ingrained in our very nature as human beings? So although sin is ingrained in our nature, and the result of living a life according to that nature leads to death, God, being gracious and rich in mercy, sent us a gift. Now Romans chapter 6 verse 23 tells us that that gift is eternal life, which includes freedom from the bondage and power of sin and reconciliation to God through Jesus Christ. And when the Son sets you free, you're indeed free, but you must not go back to your previous defilement. You must not go back to your sin and get yourself entangled again with the same thing that Jesus set you free from.